Hello everyone and welcome back to more Knowing Wheel, where yesterday we return to discuss the events from the Dutch Grand Prix. Of course, as always, we do a show and then huge news falls over the F1 world. But of course, we are also joined, as always, by Mr. 183. How are we doing, mate?
I'm good. I'm in another new location for the podcast.
Another one?
Yeah, I moved house on Saturday, so here we are. Probably going on for double figures now. Hopefully it's the last one for a bit. I don't see myself going away anytime soon or moving house anytime soon. So yeah, we move quite
Jamie
literally.
is definitely going to be recording another video. Like every podcast now is
Everyone,
going to be in a different building.
I'm just going to choose a different room in this building every
Okay.
week.
Just going to break into other people's houses, are you? I'm recording the podcast. And
Yeah,
Get away.
please leave for an hour.
An hour? That's good
Well,
going by our
yeah.
standards. But yeah, of course, as always, though, if you're new around here, make sure if you're watching this on YouTube, you check out the links down below. Of course, we've got Spotify, we've got Imperium Experiences, we've got everything going on the channel at the moment. So, all your support is massively, massively appreciated. F1 merch as well, if you want to wear. I don't think they actually do Pirelli hats, but they've got a lot of the other team stuff on there, which is very, very cool. But let's get into it then, Jamie. Big news from the Dutch Grand Prix weekend. Alpine have had to pay the contract recognitions board a lot of money, and Oscar Piastri is a McLaren driver for 2023. How are we feeling about that?
It'll be very exciting for McLaren. Hopefully they can give a car to their drivers that is actually like relative to how good the drivers are, because Norris and Piastri should be an incredible lineup. And yeah, quite a lot came out over the weekend about the situation with Alpine and Piastri. They were basically just the 3-year or 5-year plan, or whatever it was, for getting him into a seat was just ridiculous. Like,
oh yeah, mad.
It's no wonder that he was like, I'm out. Like, the fact it was something like they were making him sit in Williams for at least 2 years,
yeah,
with then a view of getting him to Alpine 2025, which is insane. He's won the F2 championship in 2021. They're going to really wait 4 years to stick him in their own car when he's one of their hottest prospects in a generation, really, since Alonso.
And this is the thing, isn't it? Because Ocon is a good driver still.
Yeah,
He's not Alonso levels, don't get me wrong, but he's a good driver. But Alpine, this has surely got to be a lesson in you plan for the future. Like, really being sensible here. Alonso should have been pushed to the side at this point, in my eyes. He's still a very good driver, don't get me wrong, but at 42, you shouldn't be trying to plan your future around a driver like that when you've got someone that's just won 3 championships back-to-back in junior formula.
Or I think even just being a bit more decisive about what you want to do, because they were so slow to make that decision of whether they're going to commit to Alonso or they're going to bin him off, that by the time they came to that decision, or they thought they had, Alonso had pieced out and Alpine had lost their star young driver as well.
I mean, let's also think for a moment that we could have potentially, in a parallel universe, had Alonso and Piastri at Alpine next year.
Yeah.
If Ocon got the boot, which would be a mental lineup.
They committed very, very early to the Ocon 3 or 4 year deal, wasn't it, last year? So, yeah, potentially that was a bit short-sighted. But then he is the driver they want to build their future around, established on the grid, French, which is important for that team. Yeah, so we'll have to wait and see how that trickles down the rest of the silly season. But there's some drivers who are going to be struggling to find a seat, you feel like, for the next range of silly season. We'll get into that a bit later, I think.
Well, I think it's probably the best time to talk about it now, isn't it?
Yeah,
Before
maybe,
we get into the Grand Prix weekend. We feel like, especially over the course of the weekend, more and more things are sorting themselves out and settling down, aren't they? Mm-hmm. It's looking now, again, we like to bring open discussion to these things, but also when there's clickbait that probably shouldn't be had, if you're seeing other people making videos, you don't need to click on them anymore. This is what's happening for 2023. Gasly is getting the Alpine seat. That's looking fairly likely now.
Yeah.
Ricciardo, in literally a clip that we saw about 5 minutes before we went on air, as such, I suppose you can call it. It looks like Ricciardo is taking next year out and hoping to get back in for 2024. That's probably going to go Hulkenberg style, and we'll never see him again, apart from a couple of odd
Mercedes
races.
reserve driver or something.
Possibly. But I think the only sort of things then we've really got still left to question is Will Colton Herta be allowed to go to Alpha Tauri? That is a big, big talking point. And after a very strong weekend for Mick Schumacher, are Haas sort of looking at him going, you know what, it might be worth another year? Or could we see Drugovich still slotting somewhere? It's looking like he could be the Alpha Tauri reserve, but I could see Drugovich go to Haas.
Yeah, the Haas seat is a really weird one because they've kind of just got free reign to do whatever they want. With, obviously, they're kind of affiliated with Ferrari. That is traditionally the Ferrari junior seat, which is why Mick Schumacher is no longer needed because he's leaving the FDA. So that's kind of why they don't have to keep Schumacher if they don't want to. But there's no, I mean, other than Robert Schwartzman, who I don't think will make a full-time F1 debut. Yeah,
it's over, I think, for Schwartzman.
Yeah,
he's going
it's kind of
MPH.
It's kind of a bit weird in that seat. Like, Haas have always been a bit maverick with who they pick to drive for them. With Gutierrez, Grosjean, Magnussen, Mazepin. It's a very strange list of drivers if you look at their history. But yeah, the likes of Drugovich will be sniffing around for seats wherever he can. Who else is up there in F2? Like Pourchaire, maybe.
Pourchaire will go Alfa Romeo.
Yeah, eventually he will, but I don't think next year.
No.
Yeah, but I'd quite like to see Liam Lawson get a shot at Alpha Tauri.
Yes.
If he can get top 3 or top 5, then, yeah, I'm a big fan of him.
Because I think this has sort of been the big talking point this week, hasn't it? You know, we're looking at whether Colton Herta will get the gig. That is only based upon whether the FIA will give him sort of a free pass, if you will, into Formula 1. But it does raise a very important question, of course, because understandably, you know, the FIA want to try and promote their own series. You know, they've focused so much on trying to build up this ladder of F4, F3, F2, F1. Pretty simple going. But it cannot be argued against now. IndyCar, especially this year, is a much, much more competitive series than Formula 2. It's got to be worth a lot more points in the grand scheme of things for your super license. It's got to be.
I'm not that brushed up on how many points there are for super license in IndyCar, but I know that
not
F2...
much. Let me have a look quickly.
F2 is like...
Well, F2
if you get top 3, then you get all of it. Yeah. If you do a couple of years in F2 and get top 10 in both years, that's enough super license points generally. Yeah, the fact... I don't know how well Herta is doing in IndyCar either this year, but he's won races.
Yeah.
It'll be interesting to see. I think, obviously, an American driver would be quite cool to see him at Haas, just for that connection. But, yeah, we'll have to wait and see what happens. But it's a bit weird that Red Bull don't want to pick from their own drivers for their second Alpha Tauri seat.
But they haven't really got anyone there, have they, at the moment?
Yeah, not really. Deruvula is nowhere near good enough. Like, Iwasa, is nowhere near ready.
Iwasa needs another year. I think he's got potential.
Yeah, Hadjar needs more years. F2 series, definitely. For him, like, Hauger needs another year. Unfortunately, we were a bit wrong on that one at this start of the year.
We screwed him. Poor Dennis Hauger, we completely screwed him.
The only one I think is closest to being ready is Liam Lawson, who did that FP1 in Spa.
Yes.
But he needs... If he gets top 3 in F2, I think they would give him a shot.
Yeah.
But that's a bit of a long shot at the minute.
Only I think if they can't get Herta, though.
He's a bit... I think he's about 20 points-ish off the top 3 at the minute. Pourchaire and Logan Sargent, who are the second and third drivers at the minute and not on good form. So
no.
There's a chance. There's a chance for Liam Lawson.
So Colton Herta then, currently sat 8th in IndyCar. They've got one race left of the year. He's not going to go higher than 8th in the championship. That is worth 3 points towards his FIA super
that's like F4 levels, F3 levels, isn't it?
So if you won a Formula 4 so 8th in IndyCar is the equivalent to finishing 5th in a Formula 4 championship. America's
and Formula
premier
4 is full of like
series,
16-year-olds.
And it's worth the same as 5th in IndyCar. 5th in Formula 4, yeah. To be fair, you get 40 points if you finish first in IndyCar, which is the same as F2.
That is how many you need for... It's 40 super license points you're looking for.
But if you finish third in IndyCar, you get half the points you get for finishing third in F2. Fourth is even worse. You get 1/3 of the points. You get 10 points in IndyCar, 30 in F2.
Yeah.
It's got to be changed.
I would be interested to see Herta in an F1 car because you don't see many make that transformation from IndyCar to F1. Really,
no,
you see it a lot the other way around, but it'll be interesting to see.
Yeah. Had Alex Rossi done?
Yeah, I think he had.
He'd done a little bit of IndyCar, I think, hadn't he? And then really, I mean, you're looking back, sort of Michael Andretti. And of course, that was a disaster back in the 90s. But yeah, I mean, it's difficult for Colton Herta because, of course, IndyCar, like I said, is absolutely stacked at the moment. But there's just not enough point. I think, honestly, if it was me looking at it, I'd say they need to follow the exact same point structure as F2. I completely understand, of course, they want their junior series to be promoted. But I really do think we're at a stage at the moment where the US, obviously, because Formula 1 is trying to target a US market so much, the best way to do that, I think, is really get into bed with them in terms of IndyCar incorporation. You know, this is obviously completely never, ever going to happen, or at least sensibly. But you imagine if we had during the Indy 500, well, no, I don't think it is the Indy 500 week, but I'm pretty certain NASCAR and IndyCar, they both did their GP race on the same weekend this year. You imagine if you chuck a Formula 1 Grand Prix into there as well, you have got a fantastic weekend of racing in Indy.
That'd be insane. Yeah, it makes too much sense for F1 to try and do it. And I think they're kind of happy with 3 American races. So return to Indianapolis is but
you could bin off one of them. You could bin off Las Vegas. Because I think the thing is now, you know, Indy, back when it first came into Formula 1, was popular.
It was. It was just 2005 that screwed them.
Yeah, I mean, let's be fair. I think the Indy 500 is still one of the most attended sports events of the year.
Yeah, definitely.
Every year without fail. Formula 1 could, I reckon now, be very much in a position where, especially if it's on IndyCar weekend, you could pack out the entire stadium.
And that's like quarter
or
of a
the parts
people,
of it you use.
Yeah, it'd be crazy. But shall I move on from American
let's move
sports
on. We might have gone down a rabbit hole.
Onto the Grand Prix that happened a couple of days ago. Yeah,
Speaking of banked corners, you could have said that, but
I missed out on that.
You missed out on that one.
Luckily, no tyre dramas this weekend.
No.
But yeah, return to Zandvoort. Lots of problems throughout the weekend with flares and with pigeons. But yeah, that's a
not
bit
at the
of a weird
same time,
place.
luckily.
No, well, they were probably simultaneously on the track, but luckily not like no pigeons dropping flares or flares hitting pigeons or anything like that.
No, but I mean, really, free practice was quite spicy, wasn't it?
I didn't get to see much of it, unfortunately.
It was looking incredibly close between Mercedes, Ferrari, and Max Verstappen's Red Bull broke down. So we kind of were left in the dark about how quick Red Bull's car would be.
Yeah, it definitely looked like Spa was a bit of an anomaly in terms of Red Bull and Verstappen's pace. And
it suited their car a lot.
Yeah, it did. And this race was going to be more like what we saw for the rest of the season, where Verstappen's potentially got a little bit of an edge. But the pace generally was quite similar between the top 3 teams. Yeah.
So I'm just still looking through the FIA Super Licenses, to be honest. Did you know if you come third in the FIA Karting Continental Championship, you get no points?
No, I didn't know that. But then they must be about 12 doing that championship.
Exactly. But still, it's a good thing to know. If you do that 40 times over, somehow in 3 years, you'll still have no points. Ignore me. Sorry,
0 times 40 is 0. So
I've really have just derailed the podcast.
Close the tab. Move on.
Actually, that's a very good idea. I'm completely closing out of that. Yeah, I mean, but that sort of sets up quite nicely for qualifying. We had Mercedes looking rapid in FP1, Ferrari turning up the wick in FP2. Red Bull, obviously, Verstappen right there when we got into FP3. So it really did look like, obviously, after the disappointment of Spa, you know, this weekend Zandvoort could be very, very spicy. Then, of course, we jump into qualifying on Saturday. No, I don't think looking up and down the roster, I think the only sort of fairly big surprise going out was both Alpines in Q2. We spoke very highly about them recently. And both Alonso and Ocon out in Q2. Of course, Sebastian Vettel made a bit of a mistake in Q1, locked the rears slightly.
People blame Stroll for that as well.
Yeah, that made me chuckle. They blamed Stroll for trying to open up the track as best as possible, and it just so happened Seb was behind him.
Yeah, he put some dirt on the track, and Seb lost his car on it. Yeah, another surprise. I mean, Ricciardo going out, it doesn't usually happen in Q1.
He's normally lower in the Q2, isn't he?
Yeah. But that's a shame. And Bottas, once again, getting out qualified by Joe. But it doesn't matter at this stage of the season because the car's trash, so neither score points.
No, exactly.
But yeah, Joe's been very good since like Baku. Generally, it's been quite equal between them.
He has really upped his qualifying pace, hasn't he?
Yeah.
It's been very, very good to see. But Q2 was a pretty undramatic affair, though. Albon, Zhou Guanyu, Alonso, Ocon and Gasly all out. And then
a weird bottom three in Q3. I don't know how Tsunoda, Mick Schumacher, and Stroll ended up there.
It's really weird, isn't it?
Fair play.
Because we're kind of used to, like, you know, we sort of spoke pre-show saying there's pretty much a top 9 locked in at the moment. Yeah. Obviously, the big 6, both Alpines and Lando Norris. And then you kind of just got other cars scrapping around. But Lance Stroll has actually been on a very good little run of form recently.
He has. We respect Lance
going under the radar.
Now.
Lance Stroll's been doing pretty well of recent times. Schumacher seems to be getting on board a lot more. Like we said, you know, he might be giving Haas a bit of a headache now if he can continue to perform.
I actually saw a stat.
Unfortunately,
we've got to backtrack on our Mick Schumacher agenda as well, because Magnussen's only beaten Schumacher in a race they've both finished, I think, like 3 or 4 times this season.
But that's also because Schumacher barely could finish the first half.
It is true, but a lot of times they've both finished, and Schumacher has been like 14th and Magnussen 16th, and doesn't get the credit for it, obviously, because there's no points for it. But Schumacher's been pretty okay compared to Magnussen. But then, like I said before, Magnussen is a better barometer than Mazepin was, but he's still not a top-level driver.
He's not different gravy, is he?
No.
As much as people thought he was early on this year.
Yeah.
And then, obviously, Tsunoda as well. He seems to, again, you know, we've kind of spoke about Tsunoda occasionally this year and then not spoke about him sometimes. He's having a really good little season. He's
doing all right. Yeah, he lost it a bit in the race.
Yeah.
But yeah, he's definitely been able to match Gasly a bit more. I still think Gasly's been the stronger of the two, but having been an
not
F1
by much though,
you expect that as well.
Yes, exactly.
But yeah,
Gasly
Stroll,
should be the stronger one.
including this race, last 6 races he's been in the top 11 all but once.
Yeah, is that qualifying? Yeah.
No, race.
Oh, races. Sorry, yeah, of course, hasn't he? He has had a really good little run of form of recent times, but unfortunately for Lance Stroll, the car then decided it wouldn't work.
He was on. I reckon he's on for P7. Genuinely, his car looks really good in qualifying.
Looking at it, because obviously Tsunoda and Schumi didn't get their laps in particularly, and Stroll had been rapid. Like we said, I think he was like P6 at the end of FP3 or something mad. He did
Q1
really
he was
well.
4th and Vettel was out. So yeah.
I
don't know what's happened on this podcast that we're praising Stroll so much for qualifying.
It really has gone down.
But there we go. Yeah.
I mean, Stroll, let's be fair though as well, has never been a qualifier.
No, not at all.
He's been utterly useless most qualifying
Well, he got
sessions
beaten
in the past.
by Hulkenberg in Bahrain this year. When Hulk had never driven a car before that weekend. So
yeah. We say all this, and Lance Stroll has got a pole position. Sorry,
he has, but that's very much a one-off. You feel like?
Oh, completely, because it's only ever happened once.
Exactly.
But yeah, I mean, at the top though, as we got through qualifying, it became very clear that despite their issues earlier on in the weekend, you just can't beat Max Verstappen at home, can you? Really? I mean,
he had that extra something this weekend, like we often see.
He had a little
Max.
bit in his back pocket, didn't he?
But
Leclerc, though, was
everyone
close.
else, yeah, Leclerc and also both Mercedes would have been right there if not for Perez's spin.
Yeah. Rigged.
Yeah.
Formula One's rigged. Of course. Perez did that on purpose. You saw
Our
all
resident
the Red
Hamilton
Bull
fan.
I don't. We'll talk about the other rigged moment of the Grand Prix as well. But I don't get how people can genuinely believe Sergio Perez could do that on purpose. And it also raises the other question that I saw a lot over the weekend. Should, if you cause a yellow flag, your lap be voided?
Well, it doesn't matter. Like, that's not the lap that is your lap. So
yeah, but this is what people are saying. You know, if you make a mistake that then means you benefit from it, should you then not benefit from it?
No.
No, you're exactly right,
motorsport.
Jamie. It's ridiculous. Because that's part of racing at the end of the day.
Yeah.
And otherwise you then just get drivers tiptoe around, not willing to... we want to... Qualifying, the exciting thing about qualifying is the fact that they are on a knife edge most of the time.
Yeah.
And seeing those moments, obviously, of course, you never want to see anyone get hurt, of course. But seeing the drivers make the mistakes because they are pushing to the limit is part of what qualifying is all about.
Yeah, definitely. Especially at tracks like Zandvoort, where a mistake is definitely punished.
Old school.
Yeah. It's like, I don't know, in football when one team's attacking and the other team has a man down with a head injury, you have to stop the game. You can't just be like, oh, we'll give him a goal because this guy is in trouble. It's like, yeah. It's just part of the game.
I don't think you've got your analogy quite right there.
Not quite. You know what I mean.
I know what you're trying to get to, yeah. But it did mean, of course, Max Verstappen then was on pole position by just 21 thousandths of a second over Charles Leclerc, closest gap between the top two so far this year. Lewis Hamilton, though, and like we said, George Russell, would have been very, very close to that fastest time. Mercedes were quick through Sector 3, I think Hamilton could have slotted himself in ahead of Carlos Sainz on the grid.
Yeah, I don't think
he would have. I don't think he would have got past the top two. That whole thing of Toto Wolff saying he was 2/10 up was a lie.
Surprise.
It just wasn't true, which did make me chuckle. But I think he could have. It was the first time this year, wasn't it? We properly had all three teams with a good shot at a victory.
Yeah, definitely. And yeah, the gap was. I mean, Leclerc had a yellow middle sector, so it wasn't even his personal best at all for his final lap. If he'd have nailed the middle sector, he could have easily got pole. In which case, my prediction would have been not as cloudy.
Yeah. You would have got a couple of bonus points there, wouldn't you, in our predictions? Yeah.
But Leclerc screwed me over. So
he did. He screwed you over all weekend. Then we go then. Sunday, race day. We got Max Verstappen. We got both Ferraris. We got Lewis. We got Checo. We got George. Top 6. Things are going to get spicy, Jamie. Talk me through the start.
Yeah, it was a very short run to turn 1, obviously, at Zandvoort. Verstappen got a decent start. It wasn't brilliant, and Leclerc definitely closed in a couple metres, but before he had a chance to get alongside, Verstappen slammed the door shut, took the inside line for turn 1, and that was kind of that between those two. The bit of, talking points were Hamilton. It was a really weird contact with Carlos Sainz. It was like, Hamilton was nowhere near challenging into the corner, but then halfway through, he just carried his momentum really well down the inside of Sainz.
Deep, didn't he?
Yeah, Hamilton saw the gap, but it was always going to close. And they were quite lucky to get away with it, I think, with no damage for either car. But yeah, line astern, Ferrari 2-3, and then Hamilton P4. The only change in the top 7 was, I think the top 10 actually, was George Russell losing the place to Lando Norris. Russell was kind of blocked in by Perez through the turn 2-3 complex. So unfortunate for Russell, but it didn't end up mattering because about as soon as DRS was active, Russell went flying past as we kind of expected. Unfortunate for the McLaren that they've not got last year's pace in terms of they couldn't even try and hold off any of the big 3 teams at the minute.
Yeah, and I think just quickly there as well to add, I'm pretty certain Stroll made up 2 places. He went from 10th straight up to 8th, and Ocon,
really?
I think, gained 3. He went from 12th to 9th early on. So there was quite a little bit of movement, around the midfield as well. Of course, that's what I think is so brilliant about turn 3 on lap 1, because you really can make either line work, especially on the first lap, if you're just aggressive with it.
Yeah,
and that's what you like around.
And you're kind of risking a bit, but that's the nature of the quarter, isn't it?
Yes, yeah. I mean, it always annoys me the fact on the F1 games the high line isn't quicker. Like, it's so brilliant when you see the shots of the cars going around there, just fully around the
like
bank.
A carousel.
Because it is so different to anything we've really got. There is no other corner like it in Formula 1 at the moment.
No.
And you are right. It is like a carousel at the Nürburgring type deal. But yeah, I mean, early on though, weird crash from Kevin Magnussen on lap 2, and amazed that wasn't his race over.
Yeah, it was quite a hefty clout on the left rear, wasn't it? But it was kind of just him, like, I don't know, Magnussen tends to do things just to not be the guy who backs out often.
But he was by himself.
No, he was running outside of someone. He was trying to complete a move running outside. No,
he wasn't. He was by himself.
No, he wasn't.
He was by himself. He locked the rears.
He was just defending from someone in turn 1.
No, he was trying to
I promise you.
He was trying to... through turn 3, though, he was trying to keep up with Tsunoda, I thought. Not Tsunoda, Gasly.
But either way, he just, went off, took way too much speed into the corner, and then, hit the wall on the left-hand side. A bit of track I don't think anyone's explored for a while. Got away with it, dropped to last, and then that was kind of any chance of progressing gone, because the midfield cars are all so close, especially lower midfield cars. Overtaking was quite difficult. Once you're in that DRS train, especially.
And I think the big question early on as well, of course, was the fact that Ferrari and Red Bull have both opted for soft, medium, probably medium. Mercedes had started on the mediums, and everyone had kind of spoke all weekend, hadn't they? That, the hard tyres weren't working. Obviously, Alonso then it's jumping ahead a little bit, but Alonso obviously jumps onto those hard tyres, and they really started working for him. And that kind of allowed Mercedes to stay close. Helped, of course, by the fact Ferrari did another Ferrari. Wow.
And this time it all seemed to fall on Carlos Sainz. I don't think Leclerc was screwed that badly by Ferrari this weekend, which is a positive given how recent races have been going for him. But yeah, Sainz had so much go wrong for him this race, which not much of it was his fault. Firstly, 12-second pit stop.
Yep.
He pit the same lap as Perez, and they weren't ready with the tyres. Simple as that. And yeah, any hope of undercutting, was it? No, he wasn't trying to undercut anyone, was he? Because he was third.
He was trying to keep up with Leclerc and Verstappen.
Yeah.
He was actually just slowing Hamilton down early on.
Yeah, but he lost the place to Perez. He briefly lost the place to Norris as well. And yeah, it was just appalling from Ferrari. Like, they must have called into box. And the only thing I can think of is if they were only boxing because Perez came in, or they saw Red Bull getting ready for Perez, sorry, they might have been a last minute call. But even then, just get the tyres out.
Yeah, you don't... And the thing as well, obviously, this year as well, because of the tyre warm-up, you don't desperately, especially around a track like Zandvoort, I would have thought, you don't desperately have to worry about being undercut by one lap. It's not a big issue round here. But Ferrari somehow seem to make everything that shouldn't be a big issue into a monumental one, somehow.
Yeah.
But, I mean, early on, though, it was weird, wasn't it? Because we kind of... I think I was still a bit worried heading back to Zandvoort this weekend. You know, last year's race was pretty dull for the most part, but I think we were kind of all expecting that. But I tell you what, went a little bit under the radar, I think, but the extension to the DRS zone this weekend made all the difference, and it was perfectly judged.
Yeah, it was very, very good in terms of getting cars alongside into the braking zone, which is exactly what you want. Yeah, quite a few decent moves in the midfield. You had Alonso coming through quite well. What else was going on down there? We didn't see much, or I only watched the Channel 4, so a lot of it was cut out, unfortunately.
Yeah, you don't really get to see a lot of it, unfortunately. The race directing is still not great.
Well, when there's, at that point, 3 cars in contention for victory kind of can cut them some slack.
Yeah, but they're not all right next to each other all the time. They were spread out by a couple of seconds.
Yeah, it was decent, and the DRS, it's just amazing to me still that they can run with DRS open through that final corner.
Well, this is the joy ground effect, though, isn't it?
Yeah.
You know, you sort of think... Because, again, I find it always quite funny as well, you know, the fact that we're looking more and more at, you know, more tracks are getting 2 DRS zones. Zandvoort's obviously... Well, it's got 2 DRS zones as well, but they're looking to extend them. I wonder how long it'll be before, you know, tracks like Bahrain, for example, you'd easily put 4 in there. 5, even, I should say.
Yeah.
Do we... Because I still a lot of people don't like DRS. And I can understand it's not for everyone, the fact you want to see drivers having to properly go for moves. But no DRS, Zandvoort would have been a snooze fest again. I am all for it.
So would most races, to be fair.
Most races would still be done. I mean, we even saw... Spain was probably the best example of that this year, wasn't it? The fact that Verstappen was behind Russell, who was a much slower car, and when his DRS was playing up, he still couldn't get past George.
Yeah. Well, Abu Dhabi 19, just go back to... I mean, I know it was different cars back then.
Yeah.
But... the fact Hulkenberg in a Renault was on old tyres held off Bottas, and I think it was one of Red Bulls as well. Of course you remember
some random Hulk race.
This was his last race for Renault, of course I remember it. But he was just chilling in 4th because they didn't turn on DRS for like 20 laps, do you remember?
Yes! Yeah, I do remember that now.
Like, it was a weird test of what F1 would be like without DRS, and it was good for Hulkenberg because he was just stayed in 4th ahead of Bottas and a couple of Red Bulls. But yeah, it was pretty shocking for the spectacle because, a car that's 2 seconds a lap slower should not be holding off those cars for that long.
No, exactly. But I think, DRS, you know, Spa might have been a little bit overpowered, but, you know, sometimes you're going to get those issues still. But this weekend, I think it worked out quite nicely, didn't it?
Yeah.
You know, it was
I'd be
just
quite
about
interested.
the right length.
Tracks like Spa or like Interlagos, potentially what they did initially in 2011, don't have the DRS on those straights because, you know, the Camel Straight at Spa, the front straight at Brazil, both of those, even before DRS was a thing, were very good opportunities to overtake. So you don't really need DRS there.
The problem is, where do you put them at Spa otherwise?
Or do you have to have them?
I would still say yes.
Even just down towards turn 1 to get cars close enough to be...
Yeah, that never really made much difference, though, did it? Yeah,
I don't know.
It's still a weird balancing act. It's still a weird balancing act, I think, at the end of the day. Let's fast forward on, though, Jamie. Of course, we already mentioned how Sergio Perez tried to rig qualifying for Max Verstappen. Let's go into the most blatant cheating we've seen in Formula 1 since Singapore 2008. Christian Horner got on the phone. He went, French toast, get one of your cars off the circuit. I need a cheap pit stop.
It's just insanity, isn't it? The fact people have chosen to send hate comments to people at Red Bull is just It's just completely unnecessary. It's ridiculous.
Get a grip of yourselves.
Yes, and they're not even related to the two teams, really.
No.
Like, obviously, in management they are, but on a race weekend, they will not have contact between each other.
No. And let's actually talk through then what happened for Yuki Tsunoda. Okay. So, lap 44, he pits. Correct me if I'm wrong on any of this, by the way, Jamie.
Okay.
But this was my understanding of it. So lap 44, he pits. Comes back out of the pit lane, thinks he's got an issue with one of the wheels. So he pulls over, says, I don't think one of the wheels is on, everything like that. Starts to unloosen his belts, obviously, to get out of the car because he thinks his race is over. The team go, no, it's fine. Come back round to the pit lane. So obviously he drives back round to the pit lane. Of course, they have to then strap him back in properly because, let's be fair, Yuki's a little guy. He gets involved in contact. He's off back across the Dutch pond and off into the sea. Bless him, poor kid. So obviously then he comes back out and then gets a completely unrelated issue with the diff. Bad luck? Yes, completely. Race rigged? No.
Yeah, correct. Absolutely. And also he was running... wheel. He was running on the fringe of the points. There's no way. There's just not a chance.
Alpha
points
Tauri,
are so hard to come by for Alpha Tauri this year.
Behind Alfa Romeo, aren't they?
Is it? I thought it was more than that. Is it? They're behind Aston Martin.
No, it might be Haas, sorry, even. Who am I thinking of?
Alpha
They're not behind Aston Martin, are they still?
I think they're 8th right now, behind Haas. 5 points behind Haas, yeah.
Yeah, they desperately need every point they can get at this stage of the championship. They are not going, especially with Aston Martin closing in as well. Alpha Tauri in 9th place at the end of the year would be incredibly disappointing for them. They're not going to throw away points like that. Like, it's just never going to happen. And of course, the FIA listening to all the communication between all the teams. So unless Christian Horner suddenly goes on the radio going, right, Adrian, I'm going to the toilet quickly, runs across the circuit, gets on his own phone, and Franz Tost also just so happens to want to have a chit-chat at the urinals. Like, no, it's not... F1 fans, man, honestly. F1 fans.
Some of them.
Not everything is a conspiracy. Knowing wheel viewers know what happened. Knowing wheel viewers are smart people.
Yeah, but the upshot was, Tsunoda out of the race. VSC comes out.
That's not an upshot. Poor Yuki.
Is that? I don't know what upshot actually means. I just said it.
That's like the good side.
Oh, well, yeah, unlucky for Yuki. The result is that Tsunoda is out of the race, and brings out a VSC. Verstappen pits. Obviously, he's got a pit stop to do because he's on 2 stop. Mercedes on 1 stop. And actually both Mercedes pit as well, from their hard tyres to the medium tyres. So Verstappen would have been maybe 5 to 10 seconds behind
6 seconds ahead of
one of the Mercedes, Russell in 2nd place. And to be fair, would have cruised up to the back of them and DRS past both of them, I think, on a fresh set of mediums compared to old hards. So, particularly in Channel 4, they were very scathing on the commentary of Tsunoda ruining this race. And it was all awful, and it's so bad, and that Alpha Tauri needs some stewards penalties and stuff. It's like, come on. It worsened Hamilton's chances of a race win in his worst statistical season ever. But
15 races now it's been since Hamilton won a Grand Prix. It's the longest ever in his career.
Yeah, it's a bit crazy, really, isn't it? It was not race fixing. It was not deliberate. They don't want to retire on track. You know, the teams have to pay, like 30 grand for use of the cranes to bring the car back to the garage. There's no way they would send him out on track just to bring him back again. It was a different issue. Yeah. But yes, it ended up Verstappen leading on from Hamilton and Russell, all on medium tyres, hoping to go to the end of the race on lap 45. They all pit actually. So yeah, it wasn't fixing. Just get a grip.
Exactly. That's the knowing wheel rant over for this week. Until, of course, former Mercedes driver Valtteri Bottas clearly wasn't happy with that and tried to rig it back for Mercedes, or just his Ferrari power unit went Ferrari power unit on him.
Yeah.
And Alfa Romeo seems to have one car breakdown every weekend still.
Yeah.
Go on, Jamie, give us a rant about Alfa Romeo. Yeah, I know you want to.
They are so lucky this season, because at the start of the season when everyone was being unserious, like, no one could get any form together at the start of the year. Bottas was just chilling, putting in those 7th places, 6th places for fun for about 8 races in a row, and no one really noticed. No one really cared at that point. They were just like, oh, Alfa Romeo are doing good. That's cool. Guan Yu Zhou, I mean, it's not about Zhou being unlucky. It's about Alfa Romeo being, incompetent.
I mean, let's not beat around the bush here. Alfa Romeo a good start to the year because their car wasn't fat. Is what happened.
Yeah, they were the only team at the weight limit. So they did very well in development for the car at the start of the year. They haven't done very well in development of the car throughout the year, because now I would say they're probably the 8th fastest team.
It's so close to call still, isn't it?
It's really close, but I would think they're ahead of Alpha Tauri and they're ahead of Williams, generally. Yeah. And everyone else seems to have a bit more pace in them. Maybe Haas are pretty similar as well.
Haas are pretty much even, I'd argue.
But
and Aston
the
Martin
way their strategies are so... I mean, no one will notice because no one else supports Bottas or Joe. But their strategies are so incompetent. They're so stubborn, it's a joke. Like, they come up with a plan and do not change it, regardless what is happening in the race. They put them on hards in Hungary. They put them on soft tyres for a second stint in Spa.
You know what it is, don't you? I reckon
what is it?
They've got... Do you remember back when Kimi was at Ferrari? And no matter what would happen in a Grand Prix, he'd just be told to stay out forever. That's what Alfa Romeo are doing now.
Yeah. So I think it was second stint. So they started Joe on softs. They then pit him. Everyone else in the race goes for mediums because they're sensible. And that allows them to open up the options. Maybe they go for a hard, maybe they go for a soft at the end of the race, depending on what happens. They put Joe on softs again for stint 2. They're trying to do soft, medium with a rookie who is not like on top of the Pirelli tyres yet in Formula 1. And they just refuse. Like, obviously, watching, you could see the hard tyres were the race tyre to be on. Generally, this race. Certainly not the soft tyres. It was either hard or medium. And they've still scared of what happened in Hungary. So, like, no, we're avoiding the hard tyres. We're just going to run soft or medium. And they are so lucky that the top 9 of every race is locked because they've got a huge lead in 6th place, relatively. They're only... so it's 17 points, the gap back to Haas in 7th. Which, given there's only 7 races to go, and the most any of Alpha, Haas, Alpha Tauri, Aston, or Williams ever score is 10th place at the minute, unless you get a wild race. They should not be finishing 6th in this championship the way they've been since Britain. They got a double retirement. They've not scored points since Canada. So, yeah. That's my rant over.
That's Jamie's rant for the week over and done with, ladies and gentlemen. But it did mean that, obviously, when Bottas' car just gave up on him, we then did get a proper safety car, and this was really the golden opportunity, wasn't it, for Mercedes to now just get even with Red Bull in terms of race performance. And they fluffed it.
So at first, obviously, safety car coming out, they're all following a delta, but going around the track as normal. Verstappen pits from the lead. He comes out just behind George Russell in 3rd place. At that point, you're thinking, okay, Mercedes have taken a bit of a gamble here, not pitting, but they had nothing to lose because they were running 2nd and 3rd anyway. Then a couple of laps later, because Bottas has stopped on the pit straight and there's no crane anywhere near and they've got to get marshals on the track to wheel him across, they decide to put the safety car through the pit lane, which is something we've seen before. China's 17 springs to mind. Probably in Baku, it's happened a few times as well.
Mugello?
With Verstappen. Mugello too. Yeah. And obviously, when you're going through the pit lane, the pit stop time is ridiculously cheap. Because
you lose 2 seconds.
You lose 2 to 3 seconds.
Stationary.
Because everyone else is going, this is what,
37 miles an hour
50k? Yeah. So at that point, if you haven't pitted, it's a no-brainer to pit. I think the problem is it doesn't happen too often. So teams, you obviously know with VSC and safety car, you're like, okay, if we have the window, we stop. Because that's a regular thing that happens. I don't think teams are quite on top of, if we go through the pit lane, just stop. Because you lose 2 seconds, you might as well.
Yeah.
George Russell, to be fair to him, was absolutely switched on. Because he knows that that's the case. He's on these medium tyres, which are losing temperature. And they've got to go through, effectively, two or three drive-through penalties, which are just going to be losing tyre temperature in all the time under the safety car. Yeah, Russell's like, we should pit. Why not? We lose 2.5 seconds, and I'm on fresh softs, no track position loss at all. Lewis Hamilton wasn't thinking on his feet that much. I don't blame Lewis for that because obviously it's the team's.
I'd say usually it shouldn't be down to the driver.
It shouldn't be down to the driver.
Yeah, what kind of frustrated me about it as well, of course, was the fact, fair play, George. He made that call, and obviously, I'm sure we'll talk about it in a minute, but it was absolutely the right call to make. What frustrated me about it was the fact that Lewis could have pit, because at that very same moment, this was the same lap that George was trying to hurry Latifi up. Latifi was already about 3 seconds behind Lewis at this point. George was obviously, because they're going so slowly, about another second behind him. Hamilton could have rejoined in the lead on soft tyres. Like, the only thing I guess Mercedes were worried about was if they cocked up the stop, and obviously then Hamilton was last on the restart, or pretty much last, obviously excluding Latifi and the lap cars.
Yeah, but they would have had to have a proper meltdown, especially when they did a double stack like 10 minutes before this point as well with the mediums.
This is. I mean, even Hamilton praised him, didn't they, about the pit stops? He could have boxed it. They could have got both cars in, and they would have been.
It would have been tight. I think it was about 3.5 seconds, which, given Mercedes' pit stop record this season, is about what they usually do.
Yeah, it would have been just about, especially when you think Latifi's obviously there in the middle. That's the only thing that I can think of, whether they were worried But obviously then if George is coming in anyway, like if you know George's coming in, you just get him right out on Latifi's gearbox. Yeah,
definitely. And I think, it would have been close if he kept the lead, but I would say second on softs is a lot better than first on old mediums. They should have done it, but it was an oversight. Hamilton got very annoyed about it, like, fair enough, I think.
Understandably, yeah. You got to
think... Because he had the edge on George all race. He was in the shot of a race win earlier on in the race, and then it all got taken away from him. He didn't even get a podium in the end, unfortunately.
No, exactly. And you got to think, obviously, for Lewis Hamilton, like we just said a minute ago, this is now the longest run he's had in Formula 1 without a race victory. 300 races in, and you've never gone more than 15 without a win is mad.
Yeah.
I'm sure, like, obviously, again, I know we bring it up a lot, but we do. Obviously, this was probably going to be the only real shot they've got to win this year. People are saying Singapore. I'm not convinced because Mercedes have always been dog poo around there for some reason. You kind of think, you know what, I could get a win here. I've still, maybe there's still, obviously because it's just been such a bad year. I'm sure Hamilton went into the winter break last year going, I'm going to come back in 2022 and bend everyone over at my will. Yeah.
Just show this is my sport.
Absolutely destroy everyone. He's not been given a car that can do that. You think the guy that took the world, obviously, again, no hate towards Max Verstappen here, but the guy that took that world championship away from me on the final lap of the last race last year, it's his home race. I can literally just win, and everyone around this circuit will hate me.
It would be a categorical away win if Hamilton had come away with that.
The most away win of all time. And you've got to think, obviously, again, just to watch that then fall through your fingers at the last moments is heartbreaking.
Yeah, and he has come out and apologised for losing his cool a bit on the radio, which we often see. It's fair enough.
Well, not like that, though, from Lewis. We see him get frustrated with other drivers a bit, but very, very rarely with the team that way. That felt like a different emotion we haven't seen for a long time.
Yeah. But, unfortunate. But on the restart, Verstappen immediately repassed Lewis. I think Hamilton, I've said it a few times before, haven't I? But like he lacks, he's not mean enough anymore to be. Like, I don't know what, like, especially we saw it last year. I think the ruthlessness you see from Verstappen, and we saw from Schumacher, I feel like Hamilton, for good or for bad,
Hamilton is a very different driver.
Yeah, he lacks that little bit of ruthlessness, because I feel like if you swap the drivers round and Verstappen is trying to defend from a faster car on a restart, he would be going right to the line. Doesn't care if people crash behind him. Like, it's probably not the fairest thing to do, but I think what we saw at F2, basically, what Lawson did, which ended up in a crash for Doohan and Verschoor, wasn't it? I don't know. I feel like he could have done the restart a bit better because he gave Verstappen such a slipstream round the banking and down the straight. But in the end, it probably wouldn't have mattered.
Do you think
Verstappen retook the lead?
Now, this is just a bit of a theory from me. Do we think that Verstappen and obviously Hamilton, like you just said, they're obviously two very, very different drivers in terms of ruthlessness. Is there an element of that from obviously the fact that Verstappen has been brought into Formula 1 with a lot of protection around him? Christian Horner, Helmut Marko, his dad are always going to fight his battles. When obviously, Lewis has certainly had support around him, but always throughout Lewis Hamilton's career, it's about proving people wrong and doing it the right way.
Yeah, I feel like Hamilton's got a bit more integrity than any other driver, really, but certainly than Verstappen. Because we've never obviously he has pushed the rules occasionally. I think back to when he was battling Rosberg regularly, he didn't give him much quarter.
There's a very big difference though between not giving much quarter and obviously what we've seen. Because again, we've spoke about this countless times, right? This sort of new breed of driver that's coming through. Again, this is why Alonso and Hamilton give us good battles when very few other drivers do for that long. But yeah, I think it is certainly still Hamilton is very, very different. And of course, this is why a lot of people have often said, about Hamilton, the fact, let's be fair, Abu Dhabi last year, after he got jumped that last lap, he could have just flung it down the inside last minute into any of those braking zones, done a Verstappen lap 1 style, and they would have crashed.
It wouldn't have helped Hamilton though, because
let's say they make contact the right way and Hamilton limps home. He was still going to finish P7, P8.
I feel like Schumacher would have tried it. Genuinely, Verstappen probably would have tried it.
Verstappen would have done it if it had been the other way around.
Yeah,
but Hamilton won't, and I think this, what some people have often said about Lewis, because the controversies that a lot of people like to go back into with Lewis in his Formula 1 career are pretty tame in comparison to a lot of other champions.
Definitely. Yeah, USA 15. I'm not happy about that still, but apart from that, yeah.
USA 15, Spain 16, and Abu Dhabi 16 are really the only, and those are really the only ones that are often talked about in that sort of regard. I mean, the only other one, of course, is now sort of the new thing, isn't it? Of, well, Hamilton shouldn't have won 08 because of Crashgate. And you go, that Ferrari.
Or maybe if Ferrari filled their car up properly.
Exactly. There's not a lot Hamilton can do that. Or Timo Glock let him by. You're like, Glock hated him.
Come on.
If Glock had known he was him, he would have turned in on him.
Yeah, it's true. Yeah.
But I mean,
shall we get back?
We've gone down
such
a rabbit hole. We have
once again. But yes, Verstappen took the lead. Hamilton dropped back, allowing Russell on that good strategy up into second place, and Leclerc, who kind of was anonymous all race, but ended up on the podium.
Yeah. So our final results then were Max Verstappen, George Russell, Charles Leclerc. George Russell's best race of the year. Charles Leclerc back on the podium, which worryingly we still don't say that often. And then, obviously Hamilton gutted. Sainz then got a late race penalty, didn't he?
Yeah, I didn't actually gather if it was for the yellow flag overtake or if it was for the unsafe release, but he had a 5-second penalty,
if I remember correctly.
Yeah.
Which I felt was harsh.
It was harsh, yeah.
Because he couldn't do a lot there with all of the Red Bull... No, sorry, who was it? Which crew was just in front of him?
McLaren?
McLaren, yeah. Because obviously let's be fair, the Zandvoort pit lane was too small.
It is too small.
It is too small. Like, there's no arguing against it. So I felt that was a bit unfair on Carlos.
And he was released well in time to get out ahead of Alonso. He just couldn't go full pelt because there's a load of mechanics.
It's either a 5-second penalty or you kill half of your ex-McLaren staff.
Yeah. Yeah, so a bit unlucky for Carlos, but that screwed him. He could have got 5th place if he passed Perez, but ended up finishing 8th with that 5 seconds.
Yeah.
So... yeah, my prediction for race winner didn't go very well.
No, but someone did. If I can just find the comment again, I want to give someone a quick shout out before we jump into this. They actually commented on the predictions last week. Let me just see if I can find it again.
I sent you a screenshot of it, didn't I?
You did, yes. So we are going to give a shout out to Ole Neuer quickly, who 2 days ago.
Which
this
is
isn't
before
an
the race.
Commented or anything.
We're on Monday at the minute, so that's on Saturday.
This was on Saturday when Verstappen, Russell, Leclerc nailed it, mate.
Which is such a hard thing to call because it was a very unusual race.
It was, nailed it. Fair play to you. Fair play to you. I'm looking through. I don't think anyone else got it. I mean, someone went Gasly, Hamilton, Leclerc, which is bad.
Interesting.
But I mean, hats off to you, mate, because that was quite
very
impressive.
Well done.
But yeah. Good, interesting race. Not the most exciting this year, but
Stroll getting a point.
Stroll getting a point as well.
Here now.
Apparently so, for some reason. But yeah, a good, solid race at the end of the day.
And now we're going to move on to Matt 212's quiz time.
Oh no.
Which I'm sure everyone's excited for.
Oh no.
Because that was Verstappen's 4th race win in a row. In obviously the last 4 races. I was going to try and list them off, but I'm not sure I can remember them.
It would be
Hungary, Spa, Zandvoort, and whichever was before that.
Austria. No, it wasn't France.
Yes, indeed. That's the first time Verstappen's won 4 in a row in his career, interestingly.
Okay.
There are 15 drivers in Formula 1 history who've won 4 races in a row or more.
Okay.
You're going to have a minute to try and get all of them.
A minute?
And your time... I mean, a lot of them are obvious, aren't they?
Yeah.
I will try and keep up. It might be quite hard because you're going to list through them very quickly.
Hopefully.
Yeah. Time is going to start right now.
Fangio, Prost,
No.
Senna,
Yes.
Rosberg,
Yes.
Hamilton, Sebastian Vettel, Michael Schumacher.
Yes, they're all right.
Nigel Mansell.
Yes.
Trying to think. Alberto Ascari.
Yep.
Trying to think of other.
You're doing well. You
F1
got
cars.
34 seconds left.
How many have I got left? Sebastian. I already said Seb, haven't I?
Did you say Alonso?
Yes, I have now.
I don't know. Okay, I thought you had.
You've just
so
given me
there's a free one.
What's happened there?
You've got 6 left.
Hakkinen?
No.
No. Okay. Trying to think who else. Damon Hill? Jacques
Yes.
Villeneuve?
No.
No.
You got 7 seconds.
Alan Jones? I'm
No.
just trying to name more champions now. Nicky Lauda?
No.
Oh, okay. James Hunt?
And your time is up. Not Hunt. No.
Okay. Oh, I forgot. No, sorry, give me 1 second. I'm going to just say them quickly. I know they don't count. Jim Clark.
Yep.
Jackie Stewart.
No.
Oh, okay. That's all right then.
Yeah.
Graham Hill.
No. Actually,
no, okay, fair enough.
So you missed Jack Brabham.
Okay.
You got Jim Clark after the time.
Yeah, that's fair enough. I should have got
Jochen
that.
Rindt won 4 in a row.
Yep. Only
Jenson
posthumous F1
Button.
World Champion. Yeah. Oh, that's
2009.
annoying. I
did
should
very
have
well.
really got that.
Yeah. And also Max Verstappen.
Oh, that doesn't count. You told me.
Course
Can
it
you
counts.
name the other 15?
No, I didn't. I said there's 15, including Verstappen.
You said Max Verstappen.
I
now.
snaked you out of that one, but
You
you forgot
snaked me out of
Verstappen.
that one. So how many did I get then? Then let's not count
so
Verstappen.
you missed 4 out of 14 then.
Well, 10 out of 14 is good
10
going.
out of 14.
It's pretty good going there, I think. Well, technically it was really only 9 because you gave me Alonso, but still.
That's true. I thought you had said Alonso, but maybe
No,
that was
I
wrong.
definitely hadn't.
You weren't going to get him either.
Was that 05, was it? Yeah, because Alonso started the year.
He won 6 in a row.
Did he?
At one point in his career. I think it was 06 actually.
No, surely not.
First 8 races, he won 6 and came second in 2.
Yeah. But yeah, Michael
it might
Schumacher
have
really
been
did
then.
come back at him, didn't he, later on in the
He
year?
did, yeah.
That is quite mad. Shall we get then into Driver of the Day? Jamie 183.
Yes,
I've got a
actually.
few shout-outs. I think it's...
I want it, yeah.
Who do you want to
Go
shout
ahead.
out? Are we
I
gonna
wanted
say,
to shout out.
Are we going to say Fernando Alonso?
I was going to shout out Fernando
Yeah.
Alonso.
Under the radar, 13th to 6th.
Yeah.
Kind
he
of
got
fell into place
quite,
for him.
Quite fortunate, because he was just chilling on hards on a long stint and the safety car came out.
Yep.
But he had to do it. So, you know what? And for the weekend performance, I actually want to shout out 2 drivers. Lando Norris.
Yep,
just
that was another one I
doing
was
Norris
gonna say.
things and qualifying and finishing 7th for
He
fun.
was
while his
unlucky to
teammate-
finish 7th.
He was. He should have been best of the rest. And also Lance Stroll for putting his teammate in the mud, who's a 4-time world champion.
Literally putting his teammate in the dust at the final corner.
Especially in qualifying.
Yeah.
Yes.
That also being said, though, Verstappen, I think, deserves a shout-out.
Yeah, as usual. Goes without saying at this point.
Limited running in FP1, and still was able to put it all together come race day and qualifying. And of course, I think Hamilton and Russell also there. You know, Russell for the brilliant strategy, Hamilton for the fact that he was really challenging that Red Bull for the race victory and just got unlucky late on.
If I was choosing one, I would go for Alonso.
I think Alonso is fair, but I think all of those drivers certainly deserve a shout-out today. F1 Fantasy, Jamie.
Yes.
How many points did
I completely
you
lost
score?
track of time when I was trying to move house and play a football game on Saturday. So, yeah, I didn't change my team. I just completely forgot, to be honest.
Who
but it was
changes
looking...
their team each week?
Yeah, I know. I did pretty well though, because I've got into the new template. I've binned off Bottas because he's never finishing anything.
Yeah.
Stroll and Magnussen are in, and Perez is the new turbo, and that's kind of the template that I'm going for.
Okay.
So I got 194.
Oh.
What are
I
you
thought
saying?
I did well this week. I got 185, which I have changed up
that's
my
pretty
roster
good.
as well slightly. I think I would have actually outscored you this week had Sainz not got that penalty.
Did you have him turbo?
I was only 9 points behind you, and Sainz obviously lost out quite a lot because he got that penalty. Really, I should have turboed Alonso.
Actually. Yeah, I turboed Perez, and Alonso got 34 to Perez's 20, so 40 for Perez for me.
Yeah, I've got Perez turboed as well. Who's your team? Sorry, is it still Alpine?
Ferrari.
Oh, okay. So, I only got 32 points down crashing to you. But, yeah, I mean, Alonso got a bit unlucky. Sorry, Sainz even got a bit unlucky. Alonso got very lucky. And I've also got Albon still in my team because he's doing bits in that Williams there. And 14 points for him was not a bad shout there. So, 185 I'll take. But fair play, Jamie. You are just slowly
extending the gap. What is your rank in your own league? Which we have 4.49,000 people in.
I am 596 now, which, to be fair, I'm quite happy with.
Fair enough. I'm 250th.
That is very good going.
I'm doing very well. I'm amazed.
That is very, because we have got a spicy league going on. So I can actually scroll down to your position.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I can see you. No, you're 309th according to mine.
Oh, well.
No, the scores are still all over the show. There's a guy ahead of you that's got 400 points less, so we'll ignore that.
Yeah. Interesting, okay. Still Mega Driver to go. We're going to wait for a couple streaks and maybe a sprint race or two. There's one left, isn't there?
Brazil.
But it's looking good. And we'll give a quick shout out to our top 10 from the Netherlands. I'm not sure if it's fully updated yet.
It's not, because according to mine, you're first with no points.
Oh, amazing. On mine, the guy with the most points is ADR.
Yes, yeah.
With 324, which is a lot of points for one race weekend.
Tied.
Verstappen, Megad, Leclerc in turbo.
Let me just
Ferrari,
check the guy you tied with.
And then
Alonso, guy you tied with is different.
Magnussen. So actually very similar to my team, but Leclerc instead of Perez.
How many points did Verstappen score this weekend again, sorry?
54.
Okay, so, this guy, Mega Driver, George Russell, who scored 53. So, one bad shout there. The guy he tied with. Then turboed Leclerc, Perez, Alonso, Schumi, and Ferrari. Very, very solid team there. Sorry, I'll let you run through the rest of our top 10.
Yeah, so we got Leo F, that was the team Matt went through. In second place, Tom S in third, which is just a point behind. Then Morris Motorsport in fourth place, tied with Paul K with Thick Noda. That's an image I could have done without.
I'm liking that.
David Malek in sixth place with Zachary B from Thailand, I want to say. No, that's not Thailand, is it?
Where are we looking straight?
Seventh place.
Oh, that is a good flag. That's a very good flag. What flag is that?
It's East Asian, but I can't remember where.
Cambodia?
Could be Cambodia.
I genuinely now just want to find out that flag.
I kind of do. Pretty sure it's Cambodia.
I got it right!
Well done, Matt.
Yes!
There you go. And we've got Anurag in P8 with Ushi 9th and Zachary's second team, actually, the Cambodian, in 10th as well. So two teams, both in top 10.
A round of applause to our top 10 this week. How many points would you have needed for a top 10, sorry?
297.
Very, very good
So once
job.
again, if I mega'd Verstappen, what would that? 108 more. So I would have been on 302. Yeah, I would have been 10th.
Good showing.
Doing well.
Very good. Top 10 overall, though, still is Max T at the top there, 140 points clear of Larry T, but of course he hasn't got his Mega Driver, so that gap could easily be down to 30, 40 points heading into the final few races of the year. Bryce G, the boy who cried Toto Wolff, still in P3. Mission Smoke Winnell with Nahal V in 4th place there. Dipham in 5th, Philip S, and then we got Timo W, Carlos Braga, Luca B, and Alan Brittis still making up our top 10 overall then. So a round of applause to all of you. 2,913 points you need at this stage of the year if you want to be in the top 10 of our league.
I'm not a million miles away.
You are
Watch
not.
this space.
But I do not believe you're going to finish. If you finish top 10 in this league by the end of the year, you can, I don't know, run the podcast.
Oh, I'll run it already, mate. Come on. Let's move swiftly on.
Let's move swiftly on. Our predictions.
Oh,
I did well for once.
I didn't do that badly, considering how terrible mine were.
You almost egged it.
Yeah, I was hoping for a Leclerc overtake on the end, and he was only 2 meters away from getting pole, so I could have done very well, but I didn't. It's also, just to address it, it's getting horrendously dark in my room because the sun has gone away.
Have you not turned
so I look like a ghost. I forgot to turn my proper light on.
I will talk through our predictions quickly. You turn a light on.
It's all good. We run with it now.
Okay, we won't. Right. So, you predicted Charles Leclerc pole, nil points. I predicted Max Verstappen pole. 2 points in the books. Thank you very much. You predicted a Sainz win. Nice 8th place. Well done, Jamie.
Yeah, that was good.
Leclerc P2, that's 1 point for you. And Verstappen P3, that's 1 point for you.
Yeah.
I predicted, so that's 2 points for you this weekend. I went Verstappen pole, 2 points immediately. We've even. 2 points for a Verstappen win. Should have got an extra point for Hamilton in P3, but nice Mercedes strategy. So I got 4 points. So I'm closing down the gap. How many races are there to go this year?
7.
I don't think I updated the scores last week either quickly. Do you remember how much we scored last week?
I think I beat you by 1, basically.
Let me quickly just... You talk about something and I'll quickly go back and check.
Yeah, go and double check. But yeah, I think the gap is... What would that be? So it'd be
less
12.
than it was.
No, 14 points in my favour. So you've got to... If you keep on that rate of 2 points gained every race, we will tie.
Let me just quickly double check so we have got the accurate scores. So
yes.
You got 3 points at Spa. No, you got 2 points at Spa. So you're on 53 overall. And I got 1 point at Spa.
Yeah.
So you are 14 points clear still. 53 to 39 with 7 races to go of the year.
And a tweet is on the line to remind people.
There is a tweet on the line at the end of this.
Yeah.
It will look so obvious.
It will. You never tweet anything. So
I
it will
don't
just
tweet that much. I need to get back into tweeting. I don't know why
I've actually gone
anymore.
off tweeting. I only run my FPL account now, so yeah.
Do you actually tweet on your FPL account?
I'm
going to start linking your FPL account to these videos.
Do not do that.
At FPL Jamie 183 FIFA Sweat or whatever it's called.
It's something like that, yeah. I'm doing pretty rubbish in FPL, but it's all right because it's unrelated. So we'll move on.
It is unrelated and boring, is what it is. I'm sorry, I have to scroll down like half a year's worth of notes now for these podcasts.
Oh, nice.
Because we're very professional.
Not much else to say really, apart from the race rating.
Yeah.
Which is a bit of a weird one because it was just bizarre at points, this race. But
it's a 7, Jamie, is what it is.
It is a 7. It's a classic 7 out of 10.
It's a 7 out of 10.
Like, all of my ratings have been between 6 and 8, apart from Silverstone.
Silverstone was... I mean, imagine if you were there at the British Grand Prix this year.
Imagine you were in Red Bull's hospitality with Jos Verstappen.
Trying not to cheer on.
And Virgil van Dijk and Trent Alexander-Arnold.
Yeah, I told Virgil van Dijk to run faster, which apparently I find out after that he's actually known for not being able to run very fast in the Prem.
Really?
Apparently.
He runs alright. He's not a million miles an hour, but yeah.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
Fair enough. Is that everything then, Jamie, for this week's show? Of course, we'll be back in a couple of days' time anyway to discuss Monza. So any other drama and things like that, I'm sure we can discuss there.
Yeah, I don't think there's much more to add, really. I'm just checking.
I think we've done all right. So we'll have now loads of random stuff come up.
Wow, Alonso scored points every race in Spain. F1 tweeted earlier.
That doesn't surprise me, actually. Very, very good job done by Fernando Alonso. But yeah, there we go then. That is going to do us for today's podcast. If you have enjoyed, please do make sure you leave a like and get yourself subscribed. Like we said, check out Spotify and everything else down in the comments below. But thank you all so much for listening. And yeah, like we said, we'll be back either Thursday or Friday ready to preview the Italian Grand Prix. Ferrari are going to get destroyed in their backyard.